Hey Junior Techies, we're going to look now at Accounting Paper 2, question number 2. This question is 42 marks and 34 minutes. Again, make sure that you stick to the time prescribed per question. You do not want to end up not finishing your paper. This question consists out of reconciliation, which is bank recon and creditors recon. Internal control and ethics. Now, just a reminder, reconciliation is what you've done since grade 10. In grade 10, you focused on debtors reconciliation and creditors reconciliation, where the debtors list or creditors list must be equal to the debtors control or creditors control account. So that's what you've done in grade 10. Just because you've done it in grade 10 doesn't mean that they're not going to ask you that in grade 11. So make sure that you understand that. In grade 11, we moved on to bank reconciliation and creditors reconciliation, where we receive a statement from our supplier and that must be compared to the creditors ledger. If there's any differences, we need to reconcile. Now, this is a paper from 2019, and in 2019, bank reconciliation, we still spoke about checks. Remember that checks is now outdated. Checks is no longer valid. This is now being replaced by EFTs. So we will need to adjust this question slightly because of the fact that there's no more checks. So when you're studying from past exam papers and you see the word checks, you should know that you can ignore that. There's no more things like stale check, post-dated check issued, post-dated check received. These are just some examples. So this is our adjusted question for question 2.1, bank reconciliation. You are provided with information from the records of Gauteng traders for August 2019. Required, provide 2 reasons why preparing a monthly bank reconciliation statement is important for the business. Prepare the bank reconciliation statement on 31 August 2019, and then it says, refer to 26 July 2019 in Information A. If you look at Information A, we are currently busy with August, yet the date says 31 July 2019. That is not a mistake. This is the previous bank recon. We need to compare the previous bank recon with the bank statement to see does it now appear or does it not. And if it still doesn't appear, we need to look at the additional information to see what action do we need to take. Question 2.1.1. Provide 2 reasons why preparing a monthly bank reconciliation statement is important for the business. So 1, to minimize or prevent or detect fraud. So this is one reason. Any one of that is regarded as one reason. Another reason, internal control purposes. You could also mention to determine if there's any errors or omissions, determine if there's any outstanding EFTs or deposits, check if the bank statement balance of the business agrees with the bank statement. So these are all possibilities, reasons for us to do bank reconciliation statement on a monthly basis. There are different ways in which bank reconciliation can be asked, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later. In this question, they've only asked us to complete the bank reconciliation statement on 31 August 2019. Starting with information A and the additional information. Extract from the bank reconciliation statement on 31 July 2019, there was an outstanding deposit 26 July and 17 July, outstanding EFTs, and then take note, the outstanding EFT 8950 is dated 10 September 2019. That's dated in the future because we're currently only busy with August. Then they say, note, The outstanding deposit of 32,100 appeared on the August 2019 bank statement. So if it does appear now, all we're going to do is we're going to tick it off. The outstanding deposit on 26 July 2019 was reflected as 5,700 on the August statement. Upon inquiry, the bank confirmed that it was counterfeit notes included in the total deposit. This case was the cash was received for repair services rendered. It was decided to write off this difference. So it means that outstanding deposit of 26 July 2019, we've deposited some of the money, but some of it is missing. This means that we will need to write this off. And to write this off, it means it needs to go into one of our cash journals. Now, if the business received money, it would have been shown in the cash receipts journal. But now to write that off, that we're not going to recover that money, we need to indicate it in the CPJ. It does not go to the bank reconciliation statement. EFT 706 and 949 appeared in the bank statement for August 2019. So if it appears, again, we just tick it off and we do nothing with it. That outstanding EFT 915 does not appear because the date is 10 September 2019. If we now look at information B up to number F, we are going to start with the balance as per bank statement. Now, the balance as per bank statement reflected a favorable balance of 6,380 on 31 August 2019. A favorable bank balance means that from the bank's perspective or on the bank statement, a favorable bank balance will always appear on the credit side. This means that in my bank reconciliation statement, it will also appear on the credit side. The bank reconciliation statement is as it appears on the bank statement, except for balance as per bank account. If we go now to deposits to see if there's any outstanding deposits in August, information B. A deposit of 13,800 made on 31 August does not appear on the bank statement. If it does not appear on the bank statement, this means that we need to take it to the bank reconciliation statement. As it appears on the bank statement, an outstanding deposit will appear on the credit side. Information C. The following EFTs issued during August 2019 do not appear on the August bank statement. So we've made payments, but it does not appear. This means that it needs to go to the bank reconciliation statement as it appears on your bank statement. This means that it should be on the debit side. Make sure that you write the number. But now we're going to first start with that outstanding EFT number 950. That's why I've highlighted or draw a block around it. Do not forget to include it in your bank recon. 1,800 still doesn't appear, so it must go to your bank reconciliation statement. Then we've got 980, 8,400, number 992, 4,420. And then we tick it off that we've taken it. Number D, the August bank statement from Future Bank reflected an amount of 1,500 wrongly credited against the account of Gauteng traders. This means that the bank made a mistake. If the bank made a mistake, it means they will need to correct it. But we still need to indicate that in our books, in our bank reconciliation statement. So why do we need to show it? Because there's going to be a difference if we don't show it. And secondly, now next month, we compare this bank recon with the bank statement to see did they correct it or not. So if it means that the bank statement reflected an amount wrongly credited, it means that we will need to debit the amount wrongly credited in our bank recon, 1,500. Now we've taken all the information to the bank reconciliation statement. This is why you need to make sure that you understand the format of the bank recon, because we're not done with this now. When you look at bank recon, it means that our balance as per bank account must be equal to the balance as per bank statement. It means that there is something missing there now. That something missing is the balance as per bank account. If you add the credit side, you will see that the credit side is more than the debit side. The credit side must be equal to the debit side, and the difference, the balance as per bank account, becomes the balancing figure. You can choose to do the bank reconciliation statement one column method as well. So when you're doing it one column method, it means that you are basically going to scratch this out, one column, and then everything will appear in one column. Credit balance as per bank statement will then appear on the debit side. That will be no brackets. Outstanding deposit will appear on the one column, not debit side, but on this side, no brackets. If any outstanding EFTs will appear in brackets because we're going to minus that, and then balance as per bank account becomes your balancing figure or the amount that you need to calculate at the end. So this is then how it will appear. This is if you're doing the one column method. Question 2.1.3. Refer to 26 July 2019 in Information A. Indicate how the bookkeeper will record this entry and provide 2 suggestions that the business can do to prevent a situation like the one experienced on 26 July 2019 in the future. So if we look at the Information A again, it was an outstanding deposit of 7,300, and they specifically said that the bank statement only reflected 5,700. And this was, upon inquiry, confirmed that it was counterfeit notes included in the total deposit. The cash was received for repair services rendered. It was decided to write off the difference. So, as mentioned earlier, when we received the money, it would have been shown in our cash receipts journal. Bank would have been debited. But now we've only received some of that money and the rest will be written off. That means that the difference of 1,600 will be shown in your CPJ as fee income, because your income is actually going to be less now because we've only received some of that money. Provide 2 suggestions that the business can do to prevent a situation like this, the one experienced on 26 July 2019 in the future. So what can we do? All banknotes received must first be scanned under a UV light to detect if there's any counterfeit money, to ensure it is not accepted. Encourage customers to make a card or electronic payment. So these are the measures that we can put in place. 2.1.4. Identify the problem that is revealed in the previous bank reconciliation and list 2 internal control measures to solve this problem. So if I look at the previous bank recon, there was outstanding deposit on 17 July and on 26 July. If you look at the current bank recon, there's another outstanding deposit. So it's clear that that is a problem. There's late deposits, not depositing money on time, keeping cash for long period is risky. Remember that deposits should happen at least, or for safety reasons, should happen on a daily basis, especially if it's large sum of money. And now you can see that deposits is being deposited late on a continuous basis. So 2 control measures: division of duties, ensure that the person receiving the cash is not the one depositing the cash. Don't just write division of duties, explain that a little bit more. Why do you say division of duties? Supervise deposits, authorize person to check and sign deposit slips. Arrange with bank for notification for all transactions SMS. You can even have a company come out and collect the cash and transfer the money. Do not keep large sum of money on the premises as well. As mentioned earlier, that's one way of asking bank recon. I'm going to just show you the different ways in asking it. Here's just some examples, so be aware of how it can be asked. One is complete the journals, the general ledger, and the bank reconciliation. This means that I have to complete the cash receipts journal, and we always start with the totals brought forward. Do not exclude that when you're calculating your totals. That is often a mistake that learners make. Then you ensure that you take the totals that you have calculated in your cash receipts journal and cash payment journal, your updated totals, to the bank account. Make sure that you transfer exactly the same amount that you have calculated. After you've completed the correct balance as per bank account, we have to take it to the bank reconciliation statement. The bank reconciliation statement appears as it will appear on your bank statement, except for balance as per bank account. If in your books it's a debit balance, it should appear on the debit side in the bank reconciliation. Make sure that you get that part correct. Then we could also ask you to just calculate the correct totals in the cash journals and the bank account. So can you see that there's no details from who or to whom, and there's no identifying which is the contra account. It's only calculate the correct cash receipts journal and cash payment journal. Again, do not forget to include the totals brought forward, which is given to you on the answer booklet. Your new updated CRJ and CPJ total must be taken to the balance in the bank account, or to calculate the correct balance in the bank account. Can you see that there's method marks awarded to it? It's if you've taken your answers to calculate the correct balance as per bank account. If you want to do a T account that is 100% correct, we do mark it. Again, when preparing the bank reconciliation statement, you have to take your total that you've calculated in the balance as per bank account to the bank reconciliation statement as it appears in your books. A credit balance, a negative balance, means in my bank account it will appear on the credit side. So in my bank recon, it should appear on the credit side. Another way of asking is calculate the correct bank account balance and complete the bank reconciliation statement. So in this example, you only calculate the correct bank balance and then do the bank reconciliation statement. Again, if you would like to do a ledger account, that is 100% fine. If they just ask you to do the correct bank account, how you get to the answer is your choice. Another way of asking this is to prepare the bank account by making entries that you may deem necessary directly in the bank account. Your entries must reflect the name of the contra account to complete the bank reconciliation statement. So this means that in your general ledger account, your bank account must now reflect the contra account which is involved, and marks are allocated for it. So make sure that you know what is the contra account and you post it then directly in the bank account. A common mistake learners write total receipts on the debit side and total payments on the credit side. That is not posting it directly in the bank account. Then you have to complete the bank reconciliation statement. This is an extract from a past exam paper, so remember there's no more outstanding checks, it's replaced by EFTs. A reminder, in your books, an unfavorable balance will appear on the credit side, so it must appear in the bank recon also on the credit side. Everything else in the bank reconciliation statement is as it will appear on your bank statement. Please remember as well, if the balance as per bank statement is not given to you, that means that becomes the balancing figure. In our question, which we've completed earlier, the balance as per bank account was the balancing figure. Here you can see it's normally if there's a method mark there, it means that that becomes the balancing figure, the balance as per bank statement. So it's not a mistake on your question paper if it was left out. It means that you will need to calculate it. Now we're going to go on to question 2.2. This question focuses on the creditor's reconciliation. Selatlet traders received a statement of account for June 2019 from a creditor, Maniake Suppliers. The creditor's statement reflected a balance that is different from the creditor's ledger. So this is an example where we've received a statement from our supplier and now we need to compare it to the creditor's ledger. Required, reconcile the differences in the creditor's ledger account balance with the statement balance in your answer book provided. Write the amounts in appropriate columns and indicate the increase or decrease with a plus or minus with each amount. Remember that in accounting, if you just write an amount, that's a positive amount. But as soon as it's a negative amount, you must indicate it as a negative or in brackets. Here the instructions is clear. Write a plus and a minus. So follow the instructions. Total the columns to show the correct balances at the end of June 2019. Take note in how the information is given to you. There are also different ways in which it can be given. They could have provided you with a creditor's ledger and they could have provided you with a statement received from the supplier. Again, make sure that you practice through past exam papers so that you can take note of the different ways in which information is given and how they can ask it. Example now here, in your creditor's reconciliation, they've provided you with two columns which they said the creditor's ledger and the creditor statement, and we just need to add or plus and then calculate the correct balance. So with creditor's reconciliation, it is important to understand who is who, because sometimes we make mistakes with this. They set the creditor's ledger of Maniaka Suppliers in the books of Selatle Traders. Then the statement received from Maniaka Suppliers. Now, as you can see that the balances are different. It means that we need to reconcile. On the answer booklet, the figures were given. Remember, do not change the figures on the answer booklet if there were, for example, now a difference with these balances. So if I open up a T account, this is a tool that you can use just to make sure that you get it 100% correct. So when we receive a statement from our supplier, from their perspective, we are a debtor because they are selling to us. So please remember from their perspective, a debtor, so how would we show if goods were sold on credit, if there were returns, etc. So this is the creditor's ledger of Manyaka suppliers. And this is the creditor statement received from Manyaka suppliers, and we, the business, Selatle, are buying from Manyaka. So this is why at the debtors control we have Selatla. If we look at creditors control, our creditors ledger means creditors control, liability, we are buying from Manyaka. So understand who is who. Otherwise, you're going to make mistakes. We start with the balances. According to the statement received from the supplier, we owe 10,055. But according to our creditor's ledger, we owe 16,555. Starting with the first transaction. A payment of 3,500 to Manyaka suppliers on 7 June was erroneously omitted by the bookkeeper from the creditor's ledger in the records of Selatle traders. Erroneously omitted means it was left out, so we still need to show the transaction. This was left out by the bookkeeper from the creditor's ledger in the records of Selatle traders. Means that we will need to debit the creditor's control account. Our liabilities will decrease. We owe them less money. So number A, it must be minus 3,500. Transaction number B, an invoice for 6,950 received from Manyaka suppliers was correctly recorded in the creditor's ledger account. The amount was incorrectly recorded as 9,650 on the statement. So when it says on the statement, it means that they have made a mistake. So to correct this, from their perspective, we are a debtor. And an invoice received means that goods were purchased. But now it was shown as 9,650 instead of 6,950. So what do we need to do now? We're going to take the difference. And the difference, 2,700, means it will appear on the credit side. And if it appears on the credit side, it means that we need to minus the debtor's control with 2,700. The debit side was overstated from their perspective. Can you see why it's so important to understand your basics with regards to debtors and with creditors? Because if you don't know that an invoice appears on the debit side, then you're not going to know how to show this transaction. Because debtors control from their perspective is credited, it means that on my statement, we are going to show minus 2,700. Transaction number C, the statement received from Manyaka suppliers did not reflect the discount of 8% that was allowed to Selatle traders if the amount of 8,000 was settled before 20 June. The amount was settled within the required period. It means that we did pay to receive that 8% discount, to be granted that 8% discount. This means that they will need to make a correction. And who are they? We're talking about Manyaka suppliers. And from their perspective, a payment means that they will need to credit our account. But we need to now find out with how much. The total amount outstanding was 8,000 that we needed to settle. So 8,000 times 8% means that they will need to credit our account with 640. If they credit our account, it means minus, so minus in the creditor's statement. Transaction number D, goods returned to Manyaka suppliers were incorrectly recorded as purchases in the creditor's ledger. The amount was 520. This means that we've made a mistake. But what mistake did we make? Goods returned means that we should have debited the creditor's control, the creditor's ledger. But instead, we've shown it as a purchase, which means that we owe them more money instead of owing them less money. So to correct this, we need to debit the creditor's ledger account. But by debiting, we've only taken out that 520. We still need to show that goods were returned. That's why we need to add the 520. So we actually need to double the amount and show that the creditor's control, the creditor's ledger, will be debited with 1,040. So this is times 2. Please remember this. If the account was incorrectly debited or credited, we correct it by always doubling the amount. Because step number 1, we first need to correct it by taking it out. And then secondly, we actually need to show the transaction. Now, because we need to double the amount and we've taken it out, what effect will it have on the creditor's control balance? It will have a negative effect, so minus 1,040. The next transaction, number E, an EFT payment of 3,000 was recorded in the cash payment journal of Selatle Traders on 28 June 2019. The statement from Menakia was dated 27/2019. So we've received the statement, and after that, there was still a payment which was made. So it will not reflect on that statement. It means that they will need to make a correction, and a payment means the account should be credited from their perspective. With how much? With 3,000. This means minus 3,000 in this creditor's statement. Number F, the goods bought from Maniaka suppliers for 2,000 were incorrectly recorded in the creditor's ledger of Maniaka suppliers. Can you see that the names are very similar? It even sounds similar. So here it was the incorrect individual's account. So what do we need to do? We need to open up the creditor's ledger of Maniaka suppliers. Goods bought means that we have indicated it on the credit side for 2,000. But that was a mistake because it was the incorrect supplier. To correct it, we need to take it out. And now we're only going to take it out once so that the correct supplier's account can be credited. So it means that the creditor's ledger, it's going to reflect on the debit side 2,000, and that means minus 2,000 in the creditor's ledger. So be careful with this one, and here you need to be sure that you know who is actually who. It's just the spelling that was different. It's just how it's pronounced sounds almost exactly the same. This is Manuka suppliers, and that is Maniaka suppliers. The last one. Invoice number 678 for goods bought on 27 June was not reflected in the statement received from Maniaka suppliers. The amount was 6,300. So invoice received for goods bought was not reflected in the statement received from Maniaka suppliers, which means they will need to make a correction. Invoice means from their perspective, goods sold, it will appear on the debit side. This means they will need to add 6,300 to the creditor's statement. Once we are done with all the transactions, we can now calculate the balance. So if I look at the debtors control balance, the total is 10,015. That is my new total. So we would have taken the balance minus, plus. Make sure that you include the balance which was given. If we now look at the creditors control, my new balance is also 10,015. So again, make sure that you take the beginning minus, minus, minus. And if you see that those two totals are balancing, you are very happy because most likely you've got everything correct. If it doesn't balance now, again, you need to look at how much time you've got per question, because you don't want to now spend time in looking at where did you possibly make a mistake and then end up wasting time or not completing your paper because you took too long with this question. So if you see that you've got time left over in this question, then see quickly, okay, where is it possibly, where did I make a mistake? Because sometimes it could be a simple thing as just adding up incorrectly or putting a minus instead of a plus. If you see that you have run out of time, rather move on to the next questions, complete the rest of your paper, and then come back. Make a note, come back to this later on and see where is it that you've actually made a mistake. Question 2.3, internal control. Read the following extract and answer the questions that follow. The accountant of Taba Fashions Design took vacation leave in July 2019. The owner of the business temporarily employed Letabu, who was recruited by the employment agency as a substitute for the month of July. Letabu made the following observations. So you would notice that I've again highlighted things in red. This is because checks are no longer valid. All checks is being replaced by EFT payments. So what I've done is I've adjusted that question and I've changed it slightly. So what I've done now is I've replaced number B with a debit order for 3,400 appeared on the business bank statement for May and June. This was not an account of the business. EFT 1555 was issued to the owner for his personal use. This payment was recorded as donation. The owner took money from the business for personal use and recorded the payment as donation. So I've just replaced the check with EFT. If you look at the questions required now, which 3 actions should be taken regarding the debit order of 3,400? What are the implications of recording drawings as donations? Provide 3 suggestions to management for the effective control of cash. Starting with question 2.3.1, 3 actions that should be taken regarding the debit order. And a reminder, the debit order of 3,400 appeared on the business bank statement for May and June. Remember, bank recon wasn't done for May and June, so we only picked this up now. This was not an account of the business. So the bookkeeper should be brought in for questioning and a disciplinary hearing to see what is actually going on here. Take legal action against the bookkeeper or employees responsible. Instruct the bookkeeper or responsible employees to repay the amount stolen or deduct from their salaries. Dismissal for employees or bookkeeper responsible for fraud. So if it was found now that this debit order is actually one of their own bank accounts, which we are paying money into their bank account monthly, that is grounds for dismissal. It's stealing from the business. Number 2.3.2, what are the implications of recording drawings as donations, and explain 1 point. So the EFT was issued to the owner for his personal use. This payment is recorded as donations. Remember that the business entity rule says that the personal finances of the business must be kept separate. The owner's personal finances must be kept separate from the business. Because now donations will be treated as an operating expense of the business and will be reflected in the profit and loss account. And it's not a business expense. This was a personal expense. Donations will decrease the net profit of the business because donations is regarded as an expense. The owner will then be liable for lower personal income payable to SARS based on the lower net profit. And this is why this needs to be shown as a personal expense and not a business expense. Provide free suggestions to management for the effective control of cash. Remember that bank reconciliation wasn't done for May or for June, and that is a problem. The bank reconciliation must be done monthly, because then this debit order, for example, could have been picked up. It shouldn't have been there. The internal auditor must verify entries in the cash journals against source and supporting documents. Regular checks of cash payment journals against the bank statement. That must be done. There must be division of duties, not the same people doing the same task. Management and the owner should authorize the payments made by EFT. So if any payment is made from the business bank account, there must be somebody that authorizes that transaction. Should it be management, a senior staff member, or the owner? Request an SMS notification from the bank. Thank you very much. I hope you have a better understanding of reconciliation. Next, we're going to look at question 3. Have a wonderful day.